The Women's Rights Party's long expressed strong concerns over the Midwifery Council's proposed revisions to the scope of practice for midwives, and notably the replacement of the terms woman and mother with the broader term of whānau. This change, among others, was opposed by 90% of respondents in feedback that was released by the Council in March 2023. Despite this opposition, the revised scope, scheduled for implementation in June 24, remains largely unchanged. In response, the Women's Rights Party initiated a petition. It garnered over 7,000 signatures last year, calling on the House of Representatives to investigate the Council's revision. And Jill Ovens from the Women's Rights Party, she joins me now. Hello, Jill.
Hi.
Always a pleasure. Good to have you on the show. Jill, before we get into the Regulations and Review Committee and what they've found, and I did mention a bit of the history in my intro for you, can you please remind us, though, for listeners that might not be that familiar with what the party was concerned about with the midwifery scope of practice?
Yes, so in the original scope of practice, which the scope of practice defines the boundaries of midwives and and how they practice. So the original one was really clear. It said that they referred directly to the care and treatment of pregnant women, new mothers, and their newborn infants up to 6 weeks postnatal. So that was really clear. It also talked about a partnership of midwives with women. So the Midwifery Council believes that that's out of date, and so they say their goal is to be inclusive, you see, and so they just wiped out the words women and babies.
Mothers.
Mothers.
Even babies, Jill?
Yeah. Oh, at one stage, yes. They did put Peppy back in there.
Oh, Peppy, baby.
Yeah. And they replaced women and babies with the word whānau, and then they attempted in the latest version to define whānau. So the council, so what happened is that several of us complained to the Regulations Review Committee, which overlooks all these sorts of scopes of practice because they are legal documents that get signed into law through notification to Parliament. And one of the problems that we've got right now is that scope of practice that we complained about has actually been brought into effect, and that's what midwives are currently working under. So we're calling on Parliament or whoever's responsible to scrap it right now and go back to the 2010 version until we get this right, because what's happened is this Regulations Review Committee, which is a whole bunch of MPs, has found that it doesn't meet the obligations, the objectives that it's set out to achieve. So they've made a number of suggestions in their report, and they've told the Midwifery Council has to go back to square one. But in the meantime, the Midwifery Council has set out new training requirements for midwives, and those are all being done right now. And so one of the things that midwives are having to train in is the issues around the Treaty of Waitangi, because the new scope of practice that they came out with, I'm talking about the Midwifery Council, is that it says in the very first clause, it embeds the Treaty of Waitangi in midwifery practice in New Zealand. And the committee of MPs says that needs to be clarified because it needs to have an understanding of what the obligations and expectation this means for midwives. So that's just one part of it. They've made a number of suggestions. Yeah, I know.
Oh, yes.
They've made a number of suggestions. They've said that they did actually at one stage change the wording, for example, saying that the midwives have to be responsive to meeting the varied health needs of women/persons, babies and whānau. So they did put babies back in there. And they said that's overly broad. And
very broad.
Yeah. And so they've told them the problem is, one of the problems is that they found the word persons to be problematic, and because it's unclear as to who's meant to be included. And while they understand that the council's intent is to use inclusive language, they believe, and I'm quoting from them, it is important to clarify that a midwife's primary role is to care for individuals capable of childbearing through the process of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum recovery. So you would think at that point they would say, to make it clear which people midwives are primarily qualified and trained to care for would be women. No. The Regulations Review Committee, the MPs, have decided that it would be better if it was replaced with clients or patients.
Oh my God.
Now, women.
So, sorry, Jill. This is the original one, or this is the
latest. This is what what the Regulations Review Committee are saying to the council, Midwifery Council. They need to change the scope of practice. So this is their suggestions.
Okay.
And they've told the Midwifery Council they have to go back out to consultation, revise it again and go back out to consultation. But some of their suggestions are a bit, they just don't seem to want to say that people who get pregnant
are women.
And have babies and are women, yes.
I mean, Jill, the thing is, it's, it's a win a little bit, but it's not, because why do they have to go back out to consultation? They know. You're right. They're too scared to just say women, babies, pregnant women. What's the extra consultation going to bring back?
Well,
you know what?
They have said that they're going to have another look at the revised scope of practice once it's been revised after it goes out to consultation. Well, it was a 4-year process before, again.
Yeah.
But it is a win in that we made complaints to the Regulations Review Committee, and for 6 of the complainants, including individuals, some of whom are midwives, and those have been upheld. They found that it wasn't suitable. And what we're saying is scrap it.
Yeah, scrap it. Wasn't there also concern about the interchangeable use of midwife itself with Kahupokai? I think it was.
Yeah, because, as a friend of mine, Di Landy from Manawahini Kororo would say, she goes out to all her relatives and friends and asks them, what does kahupokai mean? And most Māori don't know that it means supposed to mean midwife.
And people might think, what's wrong with maybe the pregnant, the mum that's having the baby, the pepe is Māori, and maybe she does like whānau, and that's fine, Jill. You'd admit it's fine if it's, the midwife makes the call on who she's working with, right? She uses language that makes the woman she's working closely with comfortable, and if the mother would like that, I'm sure she would use it, but diluting the focus, the professional focus. Doesn't it potentially, it applies to like any caregiving workforce, not a midwife. The language is too broad and doesn't just bloody doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so that's basically what the Regulations Review Committee says in its report. And it is too broad. And even the use of the word patient, because patient is used for people who are ill that you're caring for. Most women who have babies are not ill. No. I know that some independent midwives who are running their midwifery as a business, they do use the term client, but I don't like that either. And I certainly don't want to replace women with clients or patients.
Oh, gosh, no.